Headphones on. The worst punishments in human history.
Let's start with the bad and slowly work our way towards the stuff of nightmares.
I got the worst punishment that's not even on the list.
What's the worst punishment?
Should I tell before or after the show?
After.
I got a punishment that's worse than all of these punishments put together.
Say it at the end.
If you were alive in London, England during the medieval period, you would have definitely heard about the rat dungeon, since this punishment struck paralyzing fear into the hearts of even the most hardened criminals. This was a cell that was located at the bottom of the London Tower, where prisoners were
trash, bro. This fucking production is horrible. Seriously, bro, you can't spend a little bit on like a decent animator on Fiverr. Like, it would probably cost you $100 a video. This is trash. Go ahead.
Shackled and chained in complete darkness. But here's the thing, the dungeon was connected to the nearby river and just below the river's waterline, so that when the water levels rose, all the rats that lived along the riverbed would be pushed out of their shelters and forced to swim downstream. This would of course lead the hungry and angry rats towards the entrance of the dungeon, where they would then come face to face with the prisoner. But to the unlucky prisoner, he never actually saw anything, and all he would hear were the soft scurries of the rats' feet entering the dungeon. And in a matter of minutes, these soft noises were in the hundreds and all around him. These angry and aggressive rats would then begin to take small bites from the prisoner, who had no way of defending himself. Now, he might be able to shake the rats off for a few hours, but eventually the prisoner would pass out from pure exhaustion. And while he slept, the rats would continue to take bites from his flesh. Eventually, when he would wake up, he would discover hundreds of bites throughout his entire body. But it didn't stop there. The prisoner was left here for days or weeks on end, depending on his crime. But towards the end of the medieval period, this form of punishment just got more and more deranged, eventually becoming a form of execution, where prisoners would just be thrown in the dungeon and forgotten about. Number 9. The rack. This was yet another punishment that took place in the London Tower. The rack was a torture device that was used in many places throughout history. This form of punishment was originally designed for getting a confession, usually from criminals, slaves, or prisoners of war.
What do you think about torture anyways?
I think if you're torturing someone to get a confession, innocent people, and this has been proven throughout history, just admitted to yes, whatever it is, just so the torture would stop. So I don't think it's an effective way of getting the truth.
Device looked like a large ladder, but instead of secure steps, they would actually rotate like a rolling pin. You see, when a prisoner was placed on the rack, he would have his feet and wrists tied to a ratchet pulley system, where two legal officials would slowly tighten the ropes and locking them in place, placing an increasing amount of strain on the prisoner's shoulders, hips, knees, and elbows with every single turn. This was all done to get information, but of course, a lot of the times the truth was not accepted as reality, and the prisoner would then begin to say whatever he believed the officials wanted to hear. Sometimes it would work and the prisoners would be let go, while other times they would be tortured even more for lying. When the whole ordeal was over, prisoners were usually released with dislocated joints, but oftentimes they were left completely paralyzed. That was the case in England in 1447 when a 25-year-old girl named Anne Askew would be tortured on the rack for hours and hours on end and left completely paralyzed after all her joints were dislocated. She was then carried on a chair and burned alive at the stake. All this because she read and memorized scriptures from the Bible, which she preached in private to a small group of women, which were the exact women she refused to name and expose during her torture. You see,
what?
Why would she be tortured for preaching the Bible in a Christian kingdom? Play.
During this time period, if you followed any religion other than the Catholic Church, you better not say a word to anybody, including your own husband, which was the person that turned her in. Number 8.
Didn't it just say she was preaching the Bible?
Yeah, but maybe she was a Protestant. Look her up. Pull up her profile. What was her name? Askew? Just type in Askew. And Askew. There she goes. Read it.
Oh, look at Unk back at Unk GPT, an English writer and Protestant preacher who was condemned as a heretic during the reign.
So this is the funny part, right?
Yo, Unk GPT, bro, crazy.
Throughout Europe, throughout the history of Europe, Catholics and Protestants slaughtered each other. Some of the most famous are the Huguenots. This happened in France. Pull it up.
You do it.
Okay? You can't even spell that word. That's why. Huguenots were French Protestants, primarily Calvinists, who faced severe persecution in 16th and 17th century France, leading many to flee the country. Keep this in mind. Both supposedly believe in Jesus, massacring each other in the worst ways possible, torturing each other to death.
What's the main difference between Protestants and Catholics?
Catholics say God, Jesus is the Son of God. Protestants say he is God. And the Protestant Bible is the King James Bible.
Yeah, but don't Catholics still believe that?
They took the Douay Bible and they removed about 7 books. That is a completely different version of the Bible. So which Bible do the Protestants use? And they use the King James Version. Now, because Catholics did not allow divorce, King Henry VIII, who was such a fucking fool, because he couldn't have a son, he wanted a successor, he kept chopping his wife's heads off because they thought it's the woman's fault that they can't have a boy. When the Muslims, I believe the Muslims discovered it was the man that decides the sex, if I'm not mistaken. And because Catholicism didn't allow divorce, they broke off of the church, if I'm not mistaken.
When did England break from the Catholic Church?
Oh, King Henry VIII. My God, I am an encyclopedia, bro. I'm surprising myself, I swear to God, bro. Do I not surprise you every time, bro?
No, it's hilarious. I don't know how you remember all this stuff.
Be honest, bro.
It's impressive. It's impressive.
So,
wait.
What I want people to understand is that they want to look at like Muslims. It's not. Christianity had many fractures, massacres, each other. They've never been a religion of peace, even amongst each other. They conquered half the world. These colonialists, King Leopold, the amount of people killed by Christians far outnumbers Muslims, bro, by probably 1,000 to 1. Yet the narrative is Muslims are the violent religion. They spread the religion by the sword. Bro, compared to them, not even close. And I'll debate anybody, anytime, any place. If your name is Gomez, Rodriguez, you're still carrying the name. And there's many other Spanish and Latinos. You're carrying the names of your Spanish masters who came and wiped out the entire New World, massacred your ancestors, changed your language, wiped out your culture, and forced you into Christianity. That is a fact. Spain was under the Muslim empire for how many years? Hundreds of years. Are they not still one of the most Catholic countries in the world? So this Muslims spread the religion by the sword is complete bullshit propaganda to create hatred and Islamophobia in today's world, especially today's world where it's a 5-second Google or ChatGPT to find out the truth. Islam does not have it in its doctrine to force people to convert.
There's no compulsion in religion.
It's happened here and there by some corrupt leaders, but as a whole, compared to Christianity, not even close. So I think not.
But I still think that's just goofy. Like one says he's the son of God, but the Catholics still believe he is God. No, they say he's the son of the God, but he's part of the Trinity, which is God.
I'm done talking about.
All right, well,
I can't get the same answer from 3 different of them, bro.
Yeah,
I can't. You can't. You get them and you'll sit there, but wait this and what that. I know he's this, and he's like, it's like doesn't like. I'm sorry, man. It's very complicated.
Keel hauling. This brutal punishment was carried out at sea on sailors who would steal or be violent towards others and would usually result in death. Keel hauling would start with a sailor having his arms tied with a rope, then looped around the entire circumference of the ship before being tied off to his feet. The sailor would then be thrown overboard while the group of men on board pulled on the rope to slowly drag him around the outside of the ship, including over the keel, which is how this punishment gets its name.
How the hell?
But a lot of the time,
I think that's how you die, is you drown.
Times the sailor wouldn't even have to worry about it, since they were dead before they ever reached it. Kinda just depends on how hard the guys on the rope feel like working that day. Not only would the sailors be drowning and getting their backs and necks broken on the keel, they were also getting sliced apart like a cheese grater by all the sharp barnacles on the outside of the ship. But if by some miracle a sailor actually happens to make it all the way around the ship without dying, one of 3 things will happen. 1, he would be sent for round 2, and for sure be dead by then. 2, be freed and allowed back on the ship, where he would then slowly die to infections. Or 3, live the rest of his life single and being made fun of, since he was now fully covered in scars from head to toe.
There was something called divine interference back then, right?
Yeah, if you survive somehow. Let's
say there was a guillotine and they were coming to slice your head off, but it didn't work, you'd be chilling.
Imagine if they did that with circumcision with your pichadel. You get to keep an extra inch because the knife didn't cut.
You got one try. If it doesn't work, you got skin forever.
I'll make sure that knife is dull as fuck. I still have the worst torture ever. Like, this is nothing. If you guys think this is crazy, wait till you see.
Did you think of it?
If I was a torturer, people would beg for death. Good.
Number 7, crushed by elephants. Now we are getting to the part of the list where living is no longer an option. This form of punishment has been used by many countries throughout history, but was most recently used by India in the 19th century, which is really not that long ago if you really think about it. Like, your great-grandma could have witnessed one of these. What type of crimes would you have to commit to be crushed by an elephant, you might ask?
Maybe hitting a cow with a car. It's in India, right? So if you hit a cow with a car, that's what they did to you like 100 years ago.
taxes. That was good enough. And of course, stealing or being an enemy soldier was also a great way to become a tortilla. But the most disturbing case in history was when the 4th Mughal emperor of India ordered an enormous amount
look at the fucking thing.
He's Muslim.
criminals to be crushed to death in a single day, simply because he was bored and needed some entertainment. The guy who forgot to pay his taxes, crushed. The man who stole an apple from the local market, crushed. The little orphan who jaywalked across the street, crushed. The man who murdered his neighbor and added his remains to a large pot of tomato soup, then fed that soup to his family and watched them eat it from the shadows with a creepy smirk on his face. He's alright. Apparently he makes a damn good soup. There are a few ways that this public execution goes down, but one thing...
Trash,
millions of followers, dude.
Millions of followers. 13 million views on this video.
My career, bro. I'm quitting YouTube, bro. I'm done, bro. You guys don't even deserve this entertainment, bro. You really don't. If you don't send $1,000 on this video, I'm never posting again. You guys go watch this fucking nonsense with stick figures. I'm out.
We're skipping forward. Number 4, the rat bowl and tube.
Number 4. Rats.
What is it with rats? This is
one of the most sick punishments in all of human history, and it involves the use of rats. I will cover 2 of them here as they are very similar. The first use of this form of punishment dates back to 1568 during the 80 Years' War. A Dutch leader named Diederik Sonoy would often use this method of punishment, which involved placing a rat inside of a clay bowl, then placing it topside down on a prisoner's stomach, chest, face, or groin. Then the back of the bowl would be heated with either a torch or some coals, causing the rat to go into a full-on panic, trying to escape from the heat. And its only way out was to burrow into the human. Once inside, it would continue to chew and tear apart whatever was in it.
No way yours is worse than that.
It's so much worse than this. I bet you can't stand 2 seconds of it. And let me tell you something else, bro. You gotta be a sick human being to even think of this type of torture, bro. Drugs.
How? Yeah, I know. How would they even think of this shit?
I would have never thought of that. But what I have is far worse. Good.
You know what's crazier? Is hell is worse than all this.
Bro, we can't even imagine what hell is.
We can't even imagine how good paradise is or how bad hell is.
And that's scary.
Like, you can't even fathom it.
The one that gave you your concept of fear and pain is the one that designed that place to prey on both of those things. The master of the universe. You really want to find out? You want to find out? You want to FAFO? You want to freak around and find out?
I'm good on that.
Its way, desperately searching for a way out. Eventually, the rat finds its way out of the maze and survives. The same could not be said for the prisoner. But the second method was much worse and was highly secretive, since it was used under the guidance of the dictator Augusto Pinochet, where he held power from 1976 through 1983. They called it the rectoscope.
Yo, someone's getting tortured right now as we're sitting here watching this. Like, someone's...
somewhere in the world. Yeah.
I didn't do it.
Tell us what you know.
Getting teeth ripped out and shit.
Hey, how many children are in jails right now, especially in that country overseas right now? Push play.
I would have been that, bro.
I'm sure you have already figured out where this is going. Yes, it's exactly what you think. They would place a tube on a prisoner's back door, then insert a rat inside of the tube. The rat.
There's some people that would love that today. No, today there's some people that would love. So this is where
I'm sure you could find this on a freaky website.
I think this is where the joke comes from, bro. Gerbils in the ass. You ever heard that?
No.
In New York, we used to say it all the time, like making jokes about people that are into that type of alternate lifestyle. Like, you see a gerbil, like it was always about gerbils, that they would insert them in their butt for pleasure. Common misnomer. You don't believe me? Look it up. You still don't trust my ChatGPT?
These people were so sick that they actually expected the prisoners to answer questions while this was going on. Eventually, the rat would find its way in and begin to move forward to find its way out. Nobody really knows.
I would rather literally drop dead right now than anything ever go up that way.
And it's alive and clawing its way through.
It doesn't matter what it is.
There's plenty of people walking about 2 miles from me that love this shit for fun.
They die for it.
They can't wait.
They're going to burn for it.
It's like a everyday Friday.
How many people died from this punishment? But we do know that a ton of people went missing when this dictator was in charge.
Piece of shit.
Number 3, gibbeting. The last known use was in the early 1900s in Afghanistan. This all came to light in 1921 when the National Geographic published this image in their magazine. This was also used in the United States from time to time during the 17th and 18th century. One notable example was in Boston, Massachusetts, where a few pirates were hung at the Boston Harbor, which served as a warning to any sailors that were approaching Boston. Now let's talk about England, since they love this form of punishment so much. In England, this was used on traitors, murderers, pirates, and thieves. But after the year 1752, the Murder Act was passed, which required that all convicted murderers must be put to death by being publicly dissected or by gibbeting of some sort. And over 134 confirmed people met this fate. The most common form of gibbeting were actually cages, and they looked like this. It was an all-steel cage that was shaped tightly to the form of a human body, which was so tight that it would not allow
You wouldn't even fit in that shit.
First play. They need a lot of steel for me, bro.
the person inside to move. They were then hung 30 feet or more off the floor, usually on a public road or water hole, to ensure that the most amount of people could witness this monstrosity. But I can only assume this was more annoying than anything, since every time you get thirsty and needed to fill up your container of water, you would have to deal with the dying man begging you for a sip.
Over here!
But the annoyance and torture of the public didn't stop there, because after the criminals would die in the cages, the body would be left inside to rot for years and years on end, with the locals complaining that
Bro, that's just like some demonic shit right there. Just
Barbaric.
leaving
Just stupid.
skeletons there. What?
Just stupid.
Bro.
Who wants to
smell of death was so pungent that they couldn't even sleep at night. There's even been reports that some human remains stayed inside of these cages for over 20 years, before a government official would finally remember to clean it out. Number 2, scaphism.
So since the dawn of time, the government's always just been ridiculously lazy. They can't fix our potholes. Back then, they would just be leaving dead bodies hanging in the street. I'm excited to hear your torture method. Nothing's worse yet?
Nothing's worse. Not even close.
This was a form of punishment that was used by the ancient Persian Empire on anyone that would be convicted of murder. First, the criminal would be placed inside of a boat on their backs and tied down. The boat had 4 holes cut out so that the person's arms and legs would be outside of the boat and in the water. They were then force-fed large quantities of honey and milk until their stomachs were visibly full. They would then proceed to lather their entire body with the milk and honey as well. After all these steps were completed, he was then pushed out to the middle of the lake, where he was completely exposed to the heat of the sun. But the sun would soon become the least of his worries. You see, the reason they fed him milk and honey was not because it was a great last meal, but because this combination causes a person to get extreme diarrhea, which mixed with the sweet honey attracts rodents, bugs, wasps, bees, flies, and whatever other animals live near the lake. After being
Dog.
So that's how you make instant X-Lax? Honey and milk?
There's no way yours is worse than
Yeah,
that.
when you get to Unc's age, man, sometimes, it just doesn't come out. You need some help. You gotta eat a little prunes, Good.
being tormented by the animals throughout the entire night, you would think that the daytime maybe gets a little better. No, because as soon as the sun rises the following day, the person inside of the boat gets another gigantic meal of milk and honey and an additional lathering. This would be done on a daily basis to prolong the punishment.
Oh, dude, imagine having to feed him the milk and smelling his diarrhea and oh my.
For as long as possible. It was also well documented that the rodents would continuously attempt to burrow inside of the person through their back door. They were probably trying to get a head start on their next meal. A writer named John Sonaris wrote in great detail about one of these incidents. He would go on to say that it was one of the most horrid and cruel forms of punishment, since it was terribly long and seemed to have no end in sight. He wrote about a man who survived for an entire 17 days before he finally died from his wounds. Apparently, the man spent his last few days with his entire face completely covered with wasps, and his flesh rotting away filled with swarms of parasites and worms, all while being covered in his own filth. Number 1. The oubliette. Oubliette simply means to forget in French. This was a punishment that was used in many places throughout history, including in the London Tower, which had a small and confined room called Little Ease. Not only was this room pitch black, it was also so small that prisoners could not sit, stand, or lay down while inside it.
I was literally just about to say claustrophobia has got to be the worst way to go out.
Think about it when you go into your grave, bro. What's waiting for us on the other side? We got to pray and beg God for mercy.
Would be left in this uncomfortable position for days on end. One of the most famous oubliettes is not the one in the London Tower, but in the neighboring district of Warwick, inside of Warwick Castle. Here, deep underground in the castle's dungeons, is a very small and narrow cell, completely made of stone, which has a metal door.
Once again, they would need a bigger hole for you.
To close it shut. Prisoners were tossed inside of the cell and forgotten about, as the name implies. The prisoner would just have to sit there and wait for their inevitable death, which usually came in a few days from dehydration or starvation. Now, of course, this would be the best case scenario, because in reality, most of the time there would already be a rotting corpse inside of the cell to keep the new prisoner company. The previous occupier of the cell would serve as a daily reminder of his upcoming fate. But that's not the only companions that he will have, since the underground dungeons are completely infested with rats that have developed a taste for human flesh.
This guy's obsessed with
there's
rats.
more. These oubliettes existed in many of the castles throughout Europe, and in recent times, they have actually discovered these dungeons with dozens, if not hundreds, of human remains inside of it, as proof that they were hardly ever cleaned. Like in Leap Castle of Ireland, where in 1900, during the castle's renovation, a worker found a small opening behind a wall inside of the chapel. This hole had an 8-foot drop.
In the chapel?
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim.
That's awful, bro. Like, that's just weird.
That led to a large oubliette, and what the worker found inside shocked him, since it was filled with so many skeletons that they needed multiple cartloads to clear it all out. But just when you think this section is over, it just keeps on giving. You see, there's been many stories of men who have been placed inside one of these dungeons and kept alive for years and years on end, surviving off crumbs of food and minimal amounts of water, prolonging their inevitable demise for as long as humanly possible. These cells were sometimes even placed on ground level so they can hear the voices and laughter of the people outside.
I hear the train a coming. Wait, before you show your thing, I want to give an audible mention. Man stuck in cave. I think this is the worst way to go out, personally.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Imagine, bro, this is a guy that was stuck down there for 27 hours before passing away. Imagine being stuck like this. Dog, how is yours worse than this, bro?
It is.
What is yours?
So it's real simple. All you need is like a way to like immobilize the prisoner. So like handcuff them to something or tie them up. And then you take a recording of what you're about to hear and then you push play and you leave it on forever. This is what the prisoner hears.
I can't listen to that shit, bro. I hate when you do that. It's not even funny.
Imagine being tied up and that's on nonstop autoplay while you're in a cell.
In your ears.
Never stops. You're not allowed to hear anything else except that sound.
Stop, bro. Stop. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that.
Listen
You're
to me,
torturing them.
that is the worst torture to human beings. You leave them there till they lose their fucking minds, bro.
Yo, Unc, we hit the gym today.
Is that the worst or no? Be honest.
No, that's awful. Stop, bro. Stop. Ew, why are you looking at me like that, bro? It's not funny, dude. Stop. All right, I'm gonna end the video. I'm gonna end the video.
Gum like that. You chew gum with your mouth open. Close your fucking mouth. When you chew, you cows like this. That's the worst sound in the world. That's also known as misophonia.
That's what I have.
Yeah, dude. Let me ask you a question. You hear someone eating? Pull up misophonia before you kill the episode. You ever
kill the episode?
What is YouTube? What is misophonia? What is misophonia?
Stop.
Do you have a problem if someone's eating potato chips and they're right next to you and they're going?
I just hate the noises that come out of your mouth. Make me want to die.
What is misophonia? Misophonia is a neurological condition where certain everyday sounds like chewing, breathing loudly, or tapping trigger intense emotional reactions such as anger, disgust, or panic.
Yeah, I have this
It's not
shit.
just being annoyed. Brain scans show people with misophonia literally process sounds differently, causing their brains to react. As if
Iron
they're
steel,
under-
dog.
It's
You want one? Let me give you a good one.
Intense.
You have
and very
misophonia.
real.
Like me, the same thing drives me crazy. I used to.
But why do you do it then?
My
nonstop?
poor brother, because I know how much. Because now I've got it under control for the most part. My poor brother. Listen to me. He would eat.
Smack the fat right off your titties.
My brother would eat Doritos. Poor bastard, man. He couldn't. I would just swing, bro. Like I couldn't handle it, bro.
There's one thing that
Crunching potato chips.
I almost don't even want to say too much of like what bothers me in case.
You ever get
Yeah.
arrested?
Yeah. There's one thing where like,
You would lose your mind.
nah, like I'd fucking, like my head would explode. I would freak out.
Well, I guess that's it for torture today. So was I right about the torture?
Yeah, yours is the worst, 100%. All right, thank you guys for watching.
I mean,
Make
you
sure
could
to
always
like.
add that. I think the rat.
Shut up. Make sure to like, subscribe, drop a follow. 𝐁𝐞𝐤. You know way more than I don't even know how you know all this random shit.
Admit that you're impressed.
I'm
Do you
impressed.
see me Google searching any of this shit before?
No, it's good, bro. No, you just got it off the top of the dome.
They thought I just knew about.
Drop a sub, follow us on Instagram, SonnyFaz, BEKLOVER. Stop, bro. It's so fucking gross, dude.
It's just chewing sound, bro.
Stop.